Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, right here on a Sports Bash Tuesday, Adam Caplan's in the house. The guys over at InsideTheBirds.com have Greg Cosell on this week breaking down the schedule. You can listen to that on all your podcasting platforms. But today, we looked at the 53-man offensive projections. Adam Caplan's in the house to take a look at who he thinks will be the guys on defense that will be a part of the Eagles' defense this year. And we talked about this on Friday, Adam, is former defensive coordinator and head coach Chuck Pagano. He ranked his top 5 defenses in football entering training camp. He has the Eagles at number 2 on that list. So who will be the guys who will be a part of it? What's happening, buddy? How are you?
Yeah, good to talk to you. Wow, that is you mentioned that I think Friday, and as I go through this, Mike, and we'll get through this in the segment, all the positions. The one real concern is Javon Hargrave. That just in terms of your starting 11, depth certainly is a concern at a couple of positions, but in terms of the starting 11, not having Hargrave's ability to get up front and get into the quarterback. I mean, when you have Cox and Hargrave together, I mean, they were a tremendous tandem for a bunch of years, so they're not going to have that now with Hargrave signing that massive deal, really a 2-year structure with the 49ers. So that's gone now. That's how the defensive tackle position is going to look a little different, though. They've got a lot of talented young players there.
Yeah, and let's take a look at some of the new players and old players that will be a part of this defense, 26 in all. These are the 26 players that Adam thinks will be on it on the defensive side of the ball. And as we go through this, he certainly will mention where he thinks they could go outside the organization. But these are the guys that are here right now. Let's go to the end spot. We know Sweat. We know Graham. How about Derek Barnett, and who else is behind them at that defensive end spot?
Yeah, we put out on our show, 6 weeks ago that Barnett will be on the team this season. They made this decision that he was rehabbing well from his ACL. Nothing has changed. The only way he wouldn't is if he looked so bad, at the end of August that they didn't think he could play anymore or something. He's still relatively young, so because look, they're an odd man front. They're more of a 34 front with 2 overhangs, and also they play the 5-1 front. The key to here is having depth in a rotation. You don't need a lot of defensive ends, and we know that Milton Williams will play end too. So Barnett will be the third end, and they'll work it out. They start games with only one defensive end, Mike. They tend to start with 3 defensive tackles. I don't know if you knew that. Just about every game last season, they started with 3 defensive tackles, then had a rotation. So you don't need to be super deep at the end, because when you play a 43 front, yeah, you got to be 4 deep or 5 deep, but not so here. So I've got Sweat, Graham, Barnett. Now, a guy that I know they want to look at, Janoris Robinson, who was claimed off waivers from the Vikings last season. They're going to take a good look at him in this offseason program and also in training camp. He's got length. He was a 4th-round pick drafted by the Vikings, and he's got a lot of ability. He's just a little bit raw. Tron Jackson, remember, who was a former draftee, a 6th-rounder a couple years ago. He was cut last season, brought back. We don't have him make. At least I don't have him making it. And then Matt Leo, who will not go away. This is his 4th season as the international player. Yeah, the thing about him is he'll never make the team, but he's a huge dude. He's super tall and long, but he's just not talented enough to make it.
So there's your end position there. And, of course, you look at the defensive line. This is where, in the past, Jonathan Gannon, he liked to rotate a lot of guys. Defensive tackle. There's a lot of very interesting names here. This one here, I think, is going to be a lot of fun at training camp. So you've got 6 making the team. We know Fletcher Cox. We know Jalen Carter. We know Jordan Davis. Who else is on this list for you?
Yeah, there are 4 locks. Cox, Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams. There are 4 locks. Contavious Street has a very good chance to make it. He would have to have a very bad training camp not to make it. Again, Williams has positional versatility. They love him as that 3rd defensive tackle. Now he's probably going to be the 4th. And then it obviously depends on the conditioning for Jordan Davis. We put this out on our show weeks ago that he showed up to their offseason program in really good shape. In fact, he'd been in the building so much, and I know they were really happy with him. So you've got Davis and Williams as your 4. Now I have Street as a 5th. He's got some good upside. He's got decent pass rush moves. This guy's been with the Niners and the Saints. He's got enough ability. A very small guarantee in this contract. That guarantee won't keep him on the team, but I'm expecting him to show up in training camp as the 5th. And then there's a question, do they keep 6? Right now I've got Moro Ojomo. I know Greg Cosell told us on our show more than once he's very excited about him. Who's a 7th-round pick this year out of Texas. I have him as a 6th guy, and that means Tui Pelotu will not make it on my 53. And Noah Ellis, who's one of the 2 Ellis kids on the roster, Luther Ellis's kids, who's got 3 actually in the National Football League. I've got Noah Ellis not on the team, so again, I would keep 6 defensive tackles.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty good battle, I think. There you got some very interesting names. And I like Milton Williams, by the way. I think Milton's going to have a big year this year. That's just me. All right, let's go to the inside linebacker, because this is one where I imagine there might be names that aren't here yet that might be in play, but who are the guys who are here that are the favorites?
Yeah, they have. They typically start 2 inside linebackers, or they play 2 inside linebackers, and then depending on their opponent, sometimes they play more. They'll play 1, but it's typically 2. Nakobe Dean and Morrow were projecting starters. They're obviously going to make it. And then the question is, do they keep 3 or 4? Now, I've got 4. Ben Van Sumeren is an undrafted free agent rookie. The Eagles have a history of keeping 2 or 3 guys who are undrafted free agents on both sides of the football. I've got him making it. He's got good size. He's a really good tackler. He's bigger than the other 2 linebackers physically. And Christian Ellis, who's an outstanding special teams player. He's the best athlete of the group. And then I don't have Davion Taylor making it. And then also because, again, I can't see them keeping 5. I get it. Sean Bradley doesn't really play on defense. He's just on special teams. He's a good special teams player, but he's not a great special teams player. So I have the 4 inside linebackers, Mike, making it right now. And it's a numbers game. I mean, could they keep 3? Yes, but you got to be careful. So I'm going to have them keeping 4. And in terms of veterans, they're not going to pay anything. They just don't. Like Nakobe Dean is a guy who's on a rookie deal. Nick Morrow's got 0 guaranteed money. They sign him to play in this scheme. They think he can do it. And we talked to Paul Gunther, the former Raiders defense coordinator, who had Morrow when he was in his 2nd year, and he loved his growth. He thinks he'll be a good fit, Paul told us. So I expect those guys, Dean and Morrow, to be the starters.
Is that a spot where you can envision them, though, going outside the organization, or would you be thinking that they're okay with what they have in-house here?
Yeah, I could definitely see them signing 1 more veteran by training camp. But again, low-priced, we've said this for like 2 months now, is a buyer's market before the draft and after the draft at inside linebacker now. As we wrap that inside linebacker, there are like 6 or 7 guys out there will cost next to nothing. Now, again, they would like Morrow to be a starter. That's our understanding. They're expecting that to happen. Could they bring in a veteran? Sure. But does it need to happen? No, because they're not going to invest any money in the inside linebacker position. That's just the way that they believe it.
All right. Adam Caplan, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Outside linebacker, very interesting here because you got a lot of guys who are, you got Reddick and Nolan Smith. Obviously, people are excited for Smith, but a couple guys who have been around, Patrick Johnson and Kyron Johnson. So obviously, they're kind of a part of that edge, defensive end, outside linebacker hybrid, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. So just for people to understand, Mike, talking to a pro personnel source last week, the Eagles' 34 front is. They don't run the Pittsburgh 34. They run the Fangio. The Eagles do run the Fangio 34. It's different. The Steelers run an old school 34 where you have 2 outside backers a lot, whereas the Eagles play 1 outside backer, Reddick, and then they occasionally play another outside backer on the other side. So Nolan Smith, Mike, he obviously will back up Reddick. He'll line up on the other side when they feel like they want to use him opposite Reddick. He could play DN. They'll play some 43 front. They don't play a lot of it, but they do, we're told, based on the tape from last season by multiple people told us. Smith may play some defensive end. And look, he could play inside linebacker in this front. He could rush. By the way, Nakobe Dean, I hope he blitzes because he was a tremendous blitzer at Georgia. So you've got a lot of versatility, as you said, with Nolan Smith. Mike was their first-round pick, one of 2 of them this year, and I've got him making it, and then Kyron Johnson and Patrick Johnson. It comes down to 2 things. A, special teams. Kyron Johnson is more explosive than Patrick Johnson, and ability to rush the passer. Kyron Johnson is also a better pass rusher. And I know Patrick has really played on defense. Kyron, very little, if not at all. But Kyron Johnson has more upside, so I'm going to give him 3 outside backers here.
All right, let's look at the corners because I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation on who's in and who's out here because there's a lot of guys who have been around this team, a lot of young players who have not got a lot of playing time here. So any new names, who's in the mix?
Yeah, this is the hardest one. I know people were laughing when I said it literally took me 10 minutes to do the cornerback position. Well, here's why. When you're trying to put together a 53-man roster, and then specifically on defense, either keeping 25, 26, or 27 defensive players, you can't keep everybody. And it's kind of like putting your fantasy football roster together. Okay, I can't keep everybody. What do I do? And look, we know Bradbury, Slay, Maddox are absolute locks. Then the question is, well, and Ringo would be four. Those four are locks. Ringo, the fourth rounder. The Eagles are very high on. They're higher on Ringo than maybe some other teams we spoke with, but hey, they expect him down the line in future years to compete for serious playing time. So he'll be on the roster. So they're the four locks at corner. The question is Greedy Williams a lock? No, but he's very likely to make it. The guarantee in his contract absolutely will not keep him on the roster. It's very little because he had a major injury history with Cleveland. Big underachiever too out of LSU, but he's got height, weight, speed. He's talented. Charles Walls, who's an front office executive with the Eagles, he was with Cleveland. Walls was when Williams was drafted. I'm sure that probably had something to do with it. He had intimate information on this kid because he was there in Cleveland when he was drafted. So I expect him to make it. Then the question is, will Zach McPherson make it? Good special teams player. He has not shown the ability to be a solid outside corner at this level. He may be better for the slot. So it comes down to McPherson. Josiah Scott, I don't see him making it as a backup slot. Josh Yoba was with them all last season. Mario Goodrich, Eli Ricks, undrafted free agent this year, and Mekhi Gardner, an undrafted free agent this year. I really wanted to put, Mike, one of these guys on there. I probably had 2 or 3 different projections based on the issues that there were challenges at cornerback on the back end. So I wound up just going with the last guy was, so I got a Bradbury, Slay, Maddox 2, Williams 3, McPherson 4, and Ringo, McPherson 5, Bradbury, Slay, Maddox, Williams, McPherson, and Ringo are 6. So I went with Ringo over all those undrafted free agents. Now, Ricks has got length. He's got talent. He had some maturity issues, as we know, at Alabama. This guy's talented. Now, the another thing we're going to look at, Mike, before we move on to safety is, do any of these guys have any positional versatility? Can they play safety? Because the Eagles for the future, which we're going to get into, Mike, in a minute, they don't have many answers past the season at safety. That's why I'll be interested to see what happens here. If any of these guys could convert to safety or play both positions.
Yeah, and then there is the safety position, which lost both its starters last year. So this is going to have a completely new look, and there's only one, actually 2 returners. You got Kayvon Wallace back, you got Reed Blankenship back, but are both of them going to stay?
Yeah, well, Blankenship, they see not as a starter, they see as a really good backup, so that's what he's going to be. He'll either be their 3rd or 4th safety. Justin Evans has got a little bit better versatility. He's got a small guarantee in his contract. So Evans on a 1-year deal, only played for the Steelers. He was, let's put it this way, he was overdrafted, a former first-round pick, but okay in coverage, not great. Can't cover tight ends because the tape showed it, and so did the data. Not great at it, average at it. Sidney Brown, he covered tight ends, but that's all. He never covered receivers. He just didn't do that. He was more of a box player who would blow plays up. Eagles do believe he's got a coverage ability, better coverage ability to play farther back. He's a 3rd-round pick rookie. He needs time to develop. My projection is, though, that Edmonds and Brown will be their starters at safety. Evans and Blankenship will be your top backups. Again, you can't keep everybody. I have Wallace off the roster. And Tristan McCullum is his brother played for the Bucs, was a 5th-round pick. McCullum was an undrafted free agent last year. This kid's got length and speed. He's got ability. He could play corner if you need him to, but he's more of a safety. He's a guy that, when we look at bottom of the roster guys who could be a surprise, remember, Mike, Wallace's contract's up after this year. Edmonds is up. Evans is up. So nothing would surprise me at safety. They really need an answer, Mike. The only guy who's guaranteed past this season to be with the football team would be Sidney Brown. I mean, I would expect Blankenship to be with them in 24, but he's not a starter. He doesn't have the foot speed. But he's been a good story, man. What a great undrafted free signing he turned out to be. Had the great pick against Rodgers. That was a really instinctive play. but he's just not a good enough athlete. That's why teams did not see him as a starter and why he was not drafted.
All right, so Edmonds, Brown, Evans, Blankenship, no Kayvon Wallace, so that they're going to cut ties with their what was he, a third or fourth round pick?
Fourth round pick, who is on the Fine Avers rookie deal, 2020. I don't believe they even had. I think they actually had a lower grade. This is when there was too much reaching in that draft in 2020. Obviously, Davion Taylor was a major miss. Former third-round pick. He's still with the team now. I remember they cut him and they brought him back. Nobody claimed him off waivers. See, Mike, when they drafted him, they really thought they knew he was super raw, but their hope was by year 3 he'd be their nickel linebacker, and unfortunately that never worked out.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4, and of course you can check out the Inside the Birds podcast. Why we got you, Adam? What's your thoughts on the Thursday night flex scheduling?
Yeah, and look, you can have 7, like the league being on their call 2 weeks ago. You could. They didn't know that this would pass, but I sure thought so when seeing Roger Goodell right like 10 feet in front of me at the owners' meetings in Arizona, Phoenix. Boy, he was defiant. When Roger Goodell wants something, Mike, more often than not, he gets it. And now, again, it's on a temporary basis this year. And if they don't do it this year, then they do it next year. But it's a trial basis for this year. It's going to happen. I mean, they'll have games flex through weeks 13 through 17 to Thursday night. I love John Mara's funny, the president of the Giants. He didn't want it. He was very out in front, and he spoke this week. And he goes, "Look, I get it. Don't like it, but hey." Now, some teams that didn't like it. They didn't like it in Phoenix, Mike. I don't know why they flipped. That to me is surprising. I would love to know why some of these teams changed their mind. But, Mike, look, you could see the Jets being. They have, 5? The Lions have 4. They're in the opener against the Chiefs. You know the Eagles could. But we have to. I don't have their schedule in front of me about what times they're playing. But the league now, it's all about the fans. And you know, Mike, if in weeks 13 through 17, if there's an unreal matchup with 2 great quarterbacks, or two what we call legacy teams, which the league calls some of these teams that have been in the league forever and have a great national audience, they're going to get flexed.
Yeah, there's 5 weeks, 13 through 17. There is no Thursday night game in week 18. We went through the schedule. I don't know. There's maybe one game that you can. It's the Saints-Rams game where you're like, maybe both these teams are out of it, and I don't know. But the Saints with Derek Carr, they might win that division. The Rams, Who knows? But I think all the other one of the games is a Dallas game, so they're not going to flex Dallas out. It's Dallas and Seattle.
Hell no.
So I wouldn't imagine that it's going to be a huge problem. And I was thinking about this, Adam. The home team is inconvenienced, but their travel plans are not inconvenienced. You know what I mean? Like, they're not paying for hotels. They're not paying for airfare. You're really inconveniencing about, I don't know, how many road fans travel. I mean, the Eagles are one of the teams that...
Right. Eagle fans travel, Mike. No, you're right.
But like 3,000 to 5,000 would be a high number, right?
Yeah. Well, look. Let me just tell you something, Mike. I was at the game where Wentz tore his ACL in 17 in L.A., and I could tell you, they were at the L.A. Mausoleum, the L.A. Coliseum. Though I love going to that stadium. I'm probably one of the few, the proud. I love the old relics, but it was so pro Eagles, that crowd. Now there are a lot of transplants there.
Yeah.
Who are in the entertainment business. And if you remember, Mike, don't forget that Charger game.
I do.
John D. Filippo, the former Eagles quarterbacks coach, told us on our Inside the Bird show that it was rocking. That the Home Depot Stadium where they play soccer, it was ridiculously all Eagles, and he said he's never experienced that in his lifetime in football. On the road, where the home team takes over the stadium, he said it was incredible.
Yeah, no, that's the one I brought up. I said, that's an outlier where like maybe 8,000 to 10,000 people were there, but really the NFL is saying our television viewers are more important than the 60,000 people who are going to the game, and that's just the way it is. What do you think of this rule that got approved? They're going to put the ball on the 25-yard line on a fair catch on kickoffs now. So you can fair catch the ball, and the ball goes to the 25-yard line.
Yes, and that's done for safety reasons, Mike. They said in their statement that I got. Yeah, they're trying to do everything. I'm not saying they want to take away my kickoffs or punts. It's the safety issue. It's just this has been in the league for a long time. It's been brought up by the competition committee, the safety of returns, and They want the returners not to take as much physical play, and that's why they passed it. But the big one to me was the one that got passed yesterday. The emergency third quarterback, with the old inactive third quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
After what happened, obviously, to Purdy, and I just remember. But there is a difference, though, because remember, Micah, on the old rule, once the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks were taken out of the game, and the third quarterback came in, well, the 1 and 2 could not come back for any reason. Now they can come back if they're cleared physically to come back.
Yeah, yesterday I was saying the Eagles are like Wilt Chamberlain. They have rules being changed because of what they did, knocking quarterbacks out of the game. Adam Caplan, the Inside the Birds podcast, you can download it on any of your podcasting platforms, and they are breaking down the Eagles' schedule this week. Greg Cosell going through each and every opponent. Check that out. And, of course, right here, on Football at 4, Moshe is back tomorrow, Andrew on Thursday, and Adam will be here on Friday, happy hour Friday on the Sports Bash. All right, Adam, appreciate it, bud.
One more thing, Mike. We just dropped my power rankings. The write-ups are there on InsideTheBirds.com.
Okay, cool. We'll probably take a look at that on Friday's show. There's Adam Caplan here on the Sports Bash.